It started with a lie, a small one, the kind you tell yourself just to get through a night without losing your mind. I told myself I was fine, that I didn't care he had a boyfriend, and that living with him wouldn't mess with my head. I said all of that and believed none of it. Ben moved in the first week of September. My old roommate had taken a job in Chicago and left a gap I couldn't afford to cover solo. Ben was a friend of a friend situation. My buddy Tyler from work knew a guy whose cousin had just gotten dumped and needed a place fast. Rent was cheap, the location was decent, and I didn't feel like interviewing strangers off Craigslist. I agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe just to feel it out. I remember seeing him walk in, dark jeans, white t-shirt, sunglasses tucked into the collar, carrying that casual confidence some guys just naturally had. His voice was deeper than I expected when he said, "You're Leo, right?" I nodded. "You're Tyler's cousin?" "Ben," he said, reaching across the table. "Thanks for meeting up." We talked for maybe 20 minutes. What he did, bartender, why he was moving out, ex-boyfriend cheated, what kind of roommate he was. Neat, but not obsessive. He smiled when I said I worked from home. "So you'll be around a lot," he said. "Cool, I like a little life in the apartment." It was stupid. I knew it was stupid. But I felt it, right then. By the time we signed the lease paperwork, I already had a crush. I just didn't plan on doing anything about it. The first few weeks were surprisingly chill. He worked late most nights, and I'd hear him come in around 1 or 2 a.m., the door creaking quietly, the shuffle of his shoes near the front mat. Sometimes he'd microwave leftovers, and I'd smell pizza or garlic bread at 3 a.m. through my door. We kept it casual. Small talk in the kitchen, swapping Spotify playlists. He asked if I wanted to watch The Bear with him since he never finished season 2. I said yeah, why not? That was the beginning. What started as an episode here and there turned into nightly hangouts. He'd bring home stuff from the bar, half a sandwich, leftover truffle fries, once even an entire charcuterie board someone didn't touch. "You're keeping me fed," I joked one night. Ben just smirked. "Babe, I got you." He said it so casually that I didn't register it until 5 minutes later, when I realized I was still thinking about it. Babe. The first time he called me that. After that night, things shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but I felt it. The way you notice the air smells different right before it rains. Nothing visible, but something in the atmosphere had changed. Ben didn't call me babe again for a while. But now I was noticing everything. How he stood a little closer when we talked, how he'd brush his hand against mine when passing the remote. One night, I swear he touched my back for no reason when squeezing past me in the kitchen. Just a brief palm on the small of my back, casual and unnecessary, but it stuck in my head all night. I told myself to chill. He was touchy. He was friendly. It didn't mean anything. Then, a week later, I came home from a run, drenched and sore, and found Ben passed out on the couch in just a pair of sweatpants, the waistband riding low. The TV was still on, some dumb game show playing in the background. A half-empty bottle of wine sat on the coffee table. I stood there for a beat too long, watching the way his chest rose and fell. I was about to walk past when he stirred. "Leo?" His voice was thick with sleep. "Yeah," I said softly. "Just got back." He rubbed his eyes, sitting up slowly. "Shit, did I pass out mid-Jeopardy?" "Kind of," I chuckled. "Rough night?" "Yeah," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Dude at the bar got wasted and puked on my shoes. Had to mop it up and everything. Glamorous life." I dropped my gym bag and flopped into the chair across from him. "You want some real food? I was gonna make pasta." "You're an angel," he said, and smiled at me in a way that made my stomach do this annoying little flip. As I boiled water, he wandered into the kitchen, leaning against the counter with his arms folded, shirtless and casual, like it meant nothing. "So," he said, watching me slice garlic, "you dating anyone?" The question caught me off guard. "What?" He shrugged. "You never bring anyone over. Just curious." I focused on the garlic, maybe too intently. "Nah, too busy. Plus, dating in this city sucks." "That it does," he agreed, a little too quickly. There was a pause. Then, casually, he added, "You ever miss it? You know, being with someone?" I glanced over my shoulder. His expression was unreadable. calm but careful. Sometimes, I said. He nodded like that was a good enough answer, but something about the way he looked at me after made my throat dry. After we ate, he flopped back on the couch and patted the cushion next to him. Come chill. You earned it after that run. I hesitated, but I sat. We ended up watching some random Netflix documentary about cursed buildings. He kept making stupid jokes, nudging me with his elbow when I didn't laugh fast enough. At some point, I leaned back and our shoulders touched, and neither of us moved. Halfway through the episode, he said it again. Thanks for the pasta, babe. Soft. Like it meant nothing. But everything in me knew it meant something. After that second, babe, I started keeping score. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to obsess over every word that came out of his mouth, but it was like my brain had quietly opened a scoreboard behind my eyes. Ben, 2, Leo, 0, because I never said anything back. Not babe, not thanks, not what the hell is happening right now. I just let it hang in the air. That week, I tried to keep things normal. I worked, cooked, watered the plants. Ben did his late shifts, brought home drinks and bar snacks, sometimes with dumb stories about customers who hit on him, or spilled drinks, or cried over breakups. One night, he walked in around midnight with a giant slice of pepperoni pizza wrapped in foil and said, "This dude tipped me $20 just for smiling at him. Either I'm sexy or I smile like a lonely dad at Little League." Definitely the second one, I said. He threw the pizza at me and laughed, then collapsed next to me on the couch. We didn't even turn on the TV. Just sat there eating pizza and talking. Out of nowhere, he said, "You ever have a really good thing and not know if you should mess with it?" I blinked. Like, a job? A friendship? He looked at me, too directly. Yeah. Something like that. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. All the time. He didn't follow up, didn't explain. Just looked away and started talking about this horror movie he wanted to watch together. I let the topic change. But that question stuck with me. The next night was the one that really flipped the switch. It was raining hard, one of those fall downpours that make the windows shake and the world outside disappear into sheets of gray. I was working late at the kitchen table, buried in a client deadline, earbuds in, hoodie on. Ben came home soaked, jeans clinging to his legs, his black t-shirt nearly see-through. He looked miserable and hot in equal measure. "Jesus," I said, yanking one earbud out. "Did you swim home?" "Felt like it," he muttered, peeling off his jacket. "Can I steal your hoodie?" I nodded, pointing to the couch. "Top blanket." He pulled it over his head right there, shirt and all, and I immediately regretted making eye contact. Ben in my hoodie looked dangerous, like a temptation I wasn't equipped to deal with. He disappeared into his room to change the rest of his clothes, and I tried to focus on my screen. He came back barefoot, sweatpants low on his hips, hair damp, and slumped onto the couch with a groan. "You good?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just stared at the ceiling for a second, then said quietly, "You know I broke up with Mason, right?" That got my full attention. "I thought you said you were just on a break," Ben scoffed. "He cheated on me. No, break, it's done." I didn't know what to say, so I just offered, "I'm sorry." He looked at me, and something about his face, vulnerable, tired, open, made my chest ache. "You're not like him," he said suddenly. "You never make me feel like I have to prove anything." "Ben." "No, seriously," he cut in. "I come home and you're just here. You're kind. You don't ask for shit. You just let me be me." I stared at him, heart hammering, brain frozen. And then, like it was nothing, he added, "You're my safe place, babe." There it was again. Only this time, I didn't ignore it. I said it back. "You too, babe." That night didn't end in some dramatic kiss or grand revelation. There was no sudden shift in the air or slow fade into some cliché movie moment. We just sat there. Me at the table, him on the couch. The room quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the rain tapping hard against the windows. but something settled in the space between us. A mutual understanding. A new layer of whatever this was. When I said it back, "You too, babe," Ben didn't smile or tease. He just looked at me for a long moment, like he was cataloging the moment, filing it away in that quiet, careful way he did when something meant more than he was willing to admit out loud. Then he leaned back on the couch, pulled the hoodie sleeves over his hands, and closed his eyes. I went back to work, or at least pretended to. I didn't get much done. The next few days felt like a quiet, balancing act. Ben started calling me babe more often, casually, like it was just our thing now. "Babe, where's the soy sauce? Babe, you want the last dumpling? Hey babe, you look tired, go lie down." It wasn't every sentence, just enough to make it a habit. And me? I said it back, not as often, not as easily. But it slipped out more than once, and each time I watched him just to see if he reacted. He never did, but I caught the way his lips would twitch, the way he'd glance down for a second, the way his voice would drop half a notch after. We didn't talk about it, not directly, which made everything more confusing and more intense. I kept catching myself staring at him, noticing things I'd tried to ignore when we were just roommates, like the way his mouth moved when he was thinking, or the way he leaned on the counter, hips jutting slightly, like he didn't realize what that did to me. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Friday. Ben was off work, and I had wrapped up my week earlier than usual. We'd ordered Thai, opened a bottle of wine, and were 3 episodes deep into a docuseries about people who vanished on cruises. Total Comfort TV. Halfway through the 4th episode, I noticed him watching me instead of the screen. "What?" I asked, smiling through a mouthful of noodles. He didn't answer right away. Just leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. "You always chew like that?" I blinked. "Like what?" "Like a rabbit," he smirked. All quick and anxious. I grabbed a pillow and threw it at him, and he caught it easily, laughing. "You're lucky you're cute," he added, tossing the pillow aside. That shut me up. Because he'd never said that before. Not in a teasing way. Not in a bro kind of way. That was new. And I knew it wasn't a joke, because he said it without smiling. Without looking away. I swallowed hard. "You think I'm cute?" Ben's eyes flicked to mine. "I think you're a lot of things." That silence stretched again. That loaded, charged, pulsing silence we were getting way too used to. Then, softly, he added, "I think I like being around you more than I should." My throat tightened. "You live here. Kinda have to." "That's not what I mean, babe." He shifted closer, and this time, I didn't look away. That moment, him saying, "That's not what I mean, babe," hung in the air like steam after a hot shower. Everything felt thick with potential. My pulse roared in my ears, and I couldn't tell if I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life or step into something I'd been waiting for since the day he moved in. Ben didn't move any closer. He didn't have to. He just looked at me, his expression half defiant, half exposed. Like he wasn't sure what he was hoping I'd do, but he was bracing for either outcome. I didn't know what to say, so I said the safest thing I could think of. "You want to finish the episode?" Ben let out a breath. Quiet, almost amused. "Yeah, sure." We sat in silence, watching the rest of the episode. Or pretending to. My brain registered none of it. I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. "I think I like being around you more than I should." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the evening in my head, thinking about how long this had been building and how close we were to whatever the hell was waiting on the other side. I didn't see him the next morning. His door was closed. I heard him leave around noon. Later, while I was making coffee, I noticed a Post-it on the fridge. It was from him. "Babe, didn't want to wake you. Taking the late shift tonight. Left you my half of the rent on the counter. Eat something real today. B." I smiled like an idiot reading it. That night, I ordered takeout, ate alone, and stayed up way too late scrolling Instagram and pretending I wasn't waiting for him to come home. When he finally did, It was after 2 a.m. I was still up, sitting on the couch under a blanket, watching old reruns with the volume low. He looked surprised to see me. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, kicking off his shoes. I shrugged. Didn't want to. He dropped his keys in the bowl, peeled off his hoodie, and walked over. "You okay?" I looked up at him, and something shifted. Maybe it was the way he was looking at me, or maybe I was just tired of pretending this was nothing. "Ben?" I said quietly. "What are we doing?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "This," I gestured between us. "The names, the looks, the things you say." Ben stared at me for a second, like he wasn't sure whether to lie or tell the truth. Then he sat down next to me, real close, our knees touching. "I don't know," he said. "I didn't mean for this to happen, but it did." "And Mason?" "We're done," he said firmly. "I told you." "But this," I repeated, my voice low, "this isn't nothing." Ben reached out, his hand settling on my knee. "No, it's not." We sat like that for a long time. The only sound was the TV and my heartbeat in my ears. Then, slowly, he leaned in. I didn't stop him. His lips were soft, tentative. Not a full-on kiss, more like a question. And my answer was to kiss him back. Not deep. Not desperate. Just enough to say, "I'm here too. I feel it too." When we pulled apart, he let out a breath and rested his forehead against mine. "Shit," he whispered. "That was probably a bad idea." I smiled. "Yeah, but I really liked it." He laughed softly, and for the first time in weeks, the tension in my chest eased. Ben kissed me again, a little more sure this time. And I let him. Waking up the next morning felt like surfacing from a dream I wasn't ready to leave. Ben was already gone, his side of the couch empty except for the throw blanket he'd pulled over us sometime in the night. My neck ached from the weird angle I'd slept in, but my chest was warm, full in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. We'd kissed, more than once, not rushed or messy, just soft, slow, like we were both trying to memorize the feeling. We hadn't said much afterward. He'd tucked my legs over his lap, and we just sat there, my head on his shoulder, his hand tracing slow circles against my thigh. No labels, no explanations, just us. Now, the apartment was quiet again. The fridge hummed, the heater clicked, and a note was on the counter. Ben's messy scrawl. "Gone to the gym. Grab bagels on your way back from wherever you end up, babe. Minus B." I stood there, reading it 5 times. The babe looked so casual on paper, but it hit harder now. Everything felt different. All day, I was a mess. Couldn't focus. Couldn't stop wondering if he regretted it, if it was just the wine, if I'd let myself get wrapped up in a moment that meant more to me than it did to him. But when I got home, bag of bagels in hand, Ben was in the kitchen, barefoot, shirtless, hair damp from a shower. He looked up, saw me, and smiled. And then he did something he hadn't done before. He walked over, took the bag from my hand, and kissed me. Just like that, no hesitation. "Thanks, babe," he said with a smirk. "Poppy seed's my favorite." I stared at him, dumbfounded. "So, we're just doing this now?" Ben leaned against the counter. "Doing what?" "You know what." He looked at me, head tilted slightly. "Being honest?" I blinked. "So it wasn't just a thing." "Last night." He shook his head slowly. "Not for me." I nodded, heart thudding hard in my chest. "Me either." A long pause stretched between us, comfortable this time. "Okay," he said. "So what now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Do we talk about it? Set rules? Labels?" He walked up to me, slid his arms around my waist, and kissed my cheek. "How about we eat bagels first," he said, "and figure out the rest as we go." That night we watched another episode, and this time, when he laid down, He didn't ask. He just pulled me in, his hand sliding around my waist like it belonged there. We didn't need to talk about everything right then, because in that moment, we were enough. Just two guys on a couch. And one of them had finally said babe out loud, and meant it. The next few weeks were a strange mix of comfort and quiet chaos. We didn't come out and say we were together. Not to friends, not even to each other. But everything about us shifted. The way we moved through the apartment. The way we touched more freely. The way he'd come up behind me while I was washing dishes just to kiss my neck. Or how I'd sit beside him on the couch and automatically rest my head against his shoulder. We were still us. But now there was weight behind the smallest moments. I noticed it most in the mornings. He started making 2 cups of coffee instead of 1. We'd sit at the tiny kitchen table in that quiet, golden hour just after sunrise, not saying much. Sometimes his foot would rest against mine under the table, like an anchor. Like he was reminding me without words I'm still here. Sometimes I'd wake up to him curled behind me in bed, even though neither of us had said he could sleep there. But he didn't have to ask. He just showed up. That was enough. Still, there were moments that tripped me up. Like when Tyler came over one night. Our mutual friend, the one who'd introduced us. We hadn't told him anything. Ben and I played it cool, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, making space between us like we were afraid he'd see through us. At one point, Tyler jokingly asked if Ben had started dating again, and Ben just shrugged, didn't say yes or no. That stung a little. I didn't say anything about it at the time, but later when we were brushing our teeth, I think he felt it. "You okay?" he asked, mouth half full of toothpaste. "Yeah," I said, rinsing. "Fine," he spat, wiped his mouth with a towel, and leaned against the sink. "You're lying," I shrugged. Just didn't feel great being invisible. He was quiet for a moment, then looked at me in the mirror. "I'm not hiding you. I'm just still figuring this out." I nodded. "I get it. I really do." "I'll tell him," he said softly. "Not because I have to, but because I want to." The next day, he did. Tyler was cool about it, supportive in that casual, dude-ish way. Honestly, I wondered, you guys are domestic as hell. And from there, it felt easier. Ben started calling me babe in front of friends. Started brushing my knee under the table when we were out with his coworkers. Started reaching for my hand when we crossed the street. It was never dramatic. Just gradual. Real. One night, I came home late from a freelance meeting. The apartment was dark, but the hallway light was on. I found Ben already in bed, half asleep, one arm stretched out toward my side of the mattress like he was waiting for me to fill it. As I crawled in next to him, he pulled me close, still half dreaming. You're late, babe," he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. "Yeah," I whispered, kissing his shoulder. "But I'm home now," he sighed, nuzzled into me, and that was it. No fireworks, no big declarations. Just that quiet, steady warmth of knowing where you belong.